This podcast is brought to you by the drive to create things. I just made it. Hi, thank you for joining us again. Today I have a podcast with my friend Joe from the Sauna, and I first met Joe in the sauna probably almost a year ago. And after meeting him, I actually got in my car and started talking to my voice memos. Here's some of that. I'm leaving the gym. I go to the gym. I do the sauna. I love the sauna. More things come out. Words come out of people. And sharing feels natural, is what I find. Maybe if I were to continue with the podcast and grow, I'd put microphones in my sauna. This evening, I was in there with a man named Joe. And Joe, he connected with me about Adderall. He had taken Adderall when he was, I'm not sure when he started, but he at one point accidentally took twice his dose, stayed up for an evening, and then the next day at work, a coworker noticed something was wrong with him. They checked his blood pressure, and it was outrageous, and Joe was having a heart attack, and he went to the hospital for I guess, cardiac arrest. And he said that he would talk to me on this podcast, but a lot of people I meet, because now that I'm writing this book that has ADD, Adderall, and psychedelics in it, I talk about it with the cashier person at the gas station. Oh, yeah, I used to take a lot of Adderall. I just talk about it all the time. And so often, people are like, oh, I'm on it right now. Or, oh, my boyfriend takes it, and it messes with our sex life. Or just once you mention it, it comes out. And same with psychedelics. They're like, how'd you get up? Oh, I drank ayahuasca. What's that? Oh, we talk about ayahuasca together. And it's like, oh yeah, I'm all this stuff. And so many of us are doing psychedelics and are doing amphetamines, and we don't talk about it. And that's crazy, The clip goes on, and it's actually a pretty interesting kind of rant, and I'm going to put it at the end of the interview because I want to move it along and introduce my friend Joe from the sauna. We had a really nice talk. He came to my house and we pet my dog while we talked. So for the next portion of the show, it's going to be me and Joe. And one more thing before I go is that I published a book. It's called Hocus Focus, Coming of Age with ADD and Its Medicines. It chronicles my experience of taking amphetamines from age 7 till 23 or 24, and a whole lot of adventures and other things. It's hard for me to describe it because the book describes itself so well, but it can be found anywhere books are sold on the internet. You can find out about it at rlkramer.us.
Sauna buddies.
Yeah, at the gym. So it's weird to hang out with you with shirts on in normally temperature space.
Maybe we should have done the podcast in the sauna, Russ.
That would be cool. With guys at the gym.
Oh yeah.
But we were in there, and you had told me stories about your experience with a certain substance. I don't know if you want to tell me about how that started, how you
Sure.
were introduced.
Sure. So it's going way back to my high school days. Let's say around 2005. Had some trouble focusing at school. Mom got involved, sent me to a psychiatrist, and ultimately, what he determined was that, I need a prescription for a high dose of Adderall.
What dose is high?
So he started me at 50 milligrams extended release. And then I was also on a single dose non-extended release of 50 milligrams in the morning. So it was basically 100 milligrams between the 50 milligram dose in the morning and then the 50 milligram extended release.
So you were taking 100 milligrams of Adderall every 24 hours?
Every 24 hours.
How much did you weigh?
At the time I was probably 160, 170 pounds.
Seriously?
So it was a very high dose.
And that's where you started?
That's where I started.
And for the ADD that you had, what was going on? Like, what kind of behavior initiated this intervention?
So I had gotten into some trouble at school, and I think it was more so my mom wanted to try to find the root of that issue and what it was. And then when I finally got to talking to the psychiatrist, it, led to an Adderall prescription. Now, if I go back even further to elementary school time, I was in ESOL because my teachers were noticing that I was having a very hard time focusing in class. And what I remember listening to was hearing the lawnmowers in the field across the street, mowing down the large field. And that's all I could hear. I couldn't hear the teacher talking. I would just hone in on that. So it really started the attention side of it early on in my life, but it didn't really become a problem till I started being a high school kid and getting in trouble.
Yeah, mixing that with testosterone or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Teenage hormones.
Yeah.
So bringing it back to my high school days, getting in trouble, ended up going to see the psychiatrist, and he prescribed me that what I consider a very high dose to start out on Adderall.
Yeah, it's 5 times my dose.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what I noticed, and what I was also involved with at the same time, I had started smoking pot. And it was kind of like the Adderall mixed with the pot was kind of counterintuitive. Like the pot would level me out, calm me down, and then the Adderall, in a way, being an amphetamine, would speed everything up. So it was kind of like a give and take going through it. And it was really hard for me, especially at such a high dose, to cope with that or adjust to it.
Were you smoking weed every day?
Not every day, but frequently, a few times a week. And then, as time would progress and I got older and then graduated, I was smoking pretty much daily.
Yeah.
So from sophomore year, let's say 15 years old, through my junior year of college, I was on that high of a dose. Consistently seeing my psychiatrist once a month, and the prescriptions just kept coming. At a certain point in my discussions with him, the pot topic kind of became more prevalent, and almost in a way it took over the conversation, because I went to him and he said, this was me coming back after summer of sophomore year of college. Went to see him because he wouldn't refill my prescription for Adderall.
Why wouldn't he?
Until I saw him again.
Oh, I just wanted to check in.
Yep. So while I was away at Salisbury for about 6 months, he was just mailing me my prescription, just to make it easier. So that summer he said, look, I can't refill anymore until you come and do a visit with me.
Yeah, you shouldn't have been doing that.
Correct.
Yeah, I had the same.
Correct. So I went to see him, and he sat me down. He's like, hey Joe, how's it going? Is the Adderall still working? Do you feel you need it? How's school been? Et cetera, et cetera. And I said, look, doc, I'm not really sure if it's helping or hurting me at this point. I feel like smoking pot has kind of given me a state of calm and a state of serenity. And I'm noticing that if I don't take my Adderall in the morning, I can get through my day a lot better without it. If I don't. So long as I wake up, smoke a joint, I'm good.
So you're self-medicating.
Correct.
Yeah.
And he gave me the whole spiel, like, you have the rest of your life to smoke pot, and the father speech, if you will, and he said, but I'm not going to tell you to stop. If you feel it's working, that may be your solution.
Mm-hmm.
So what we came to terms with at the end of that session was, he's going to drop my prescription back. So he took me off of extended release completely, and he dropped me back to 25 milligrams a day. I didn't take any of it after that meeting, and here's why. When he dropped me back, let me fall back here. Right before finals, I was still on my extended release, that 100 milligrams a day. At the time, I was working at the pool. I was managing the staff there, and I had a final at 11 a.m. I had a lifeguard shift from 5 to 10. I studied up all night. I took an extended release at 11 p.m. the night before to get me through the night so I could stay up, study, and then get through my shift. When I got in at 5 a.m. for my shift, my boss was there, and she looked at me, and she's like, Joe, you don't look good. What I was experiencing at that time was sweats, pale, completely flush. My hands were shaking like this, and I didn't know what was going on. She took my blood pressure. It was 220 over 155. My pulse was 180. And she's like, dude, I'm taking you to the hospital. Like, we'll figure this shift out. Close down the pool. They took me to the hospital. Yeah. So because of that extended release extra dose that I took at 11 p.m. that night, I essentially was diagnosed with a mild heart attack. From that point on, I had stopped the Adderall. But I wanted to still meet with my psychiatrist. I enjoyed the conversation. That was helpful. So, I was entertaining the refill of the prescription just to kind of clear my head with him.
What do you mean, clear your head with?
To get my thoughts out.
You were just
to a neutral party.
Yeah.
And converse with him. I hadn't seen him in 6 months.
Psychologist, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Use him for what his job is.
Other than prescription writing.
Exactly.
And you were taking it, just to track back a little, you were taking it for studying and stuff like that. You found it effective, right?
Yes.
And how would you describe that, like, effectiveness for you? How did it? What was it? The difference in who you are on it.
Totally different person. Entirely different person. If on the days where I took my Adderall and did not smoke, whether it was studies, video gaming, beer pong, whatever event or activity that I was doing, I was like tunnel vision focused. It worked.
Yeah.
And it worked great.
I know.
But it would give me kind of this, it's a really hard feeling to describe. It's almost like on edge. You understand? Like emotionally,
yeah.
and physically jittery.
Yeah.
But in that headspace, I was still laser focused. But I could tell, like, I wasn't myself. Like, if my buddies came to me and tried to steer my attention in a different direction, it wasn't happening. But if I mixed that with weed, I had the ability to not only be laser focused, but I could shift that focus to different directions. And I wasn't getting that, the jitters. I wasn't getting the,
it takes the edge off.
Weird feeling. Exactly.
I used to combine them all the time.
Exactly.
And I had an idea that, like, Adderall would give you the follow through to go with whatever silly idea the weed had.
Yep.
So
yep.
Like usually
absolutely.
You have an idea and you're like, nah,
absolutely. The amount of
like, no,
the
we'll
amount
stay
of
until 5 in the morning knocking this thing out.
The amount of stupid shit that I got myself into.
Yeah.
Because of that combination.
Yeah.
Is exceptional.
What are some examples? What kind of were you doing projects and things like that, or just
no? Like, I wasn't that big of a drinker in college. My college roommates were, and while they're getting drunk, I'm on that combination of weed and Adderall.
Yeah.
And like you said, it kind of ropes you into whatever activity is going on around you. And what I found on some occasions were they would be doing stupid drunk stuff. For instance, we had a large backyard where we had built a fire pit, and there was a fire hose laying in the street. It was just cut off. It wasn't an active fire hose or anything, just laying in the street. So we had the brilliant idea to use that as a rope swing. So my drunk buddy climbed up into the tree about 20 feet, hung the rope swing, and then all of us on all that mixture of substance.
Were you sharing the Adderalls with your buddies?
Occasionally.
Yeah.
They would, we got into, the brilliant idea of, let's see who can swing the furthest over on top of the fire pit. Just brilliant college things like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or, it'd be 3 a.m. They're up drunk. I'm just chilling. Hey Joe, let's go walk the streets of Salisbury in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
Okay. So be it. So, just getting into things that you normally wouldn't be in the mindset to do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And I found different interests.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like it's a whole different personality.
Yep.
And I don't know, like socially I was weird too.
Very socially awkward, I found.
Hard to date. I don't know if you experienced that. I was weird on dates sometimes.
Yeah, it was I did experience that a time or two. It was almost like it was hard to engage in the conversation.
Yeah.
Like especially on such a high dose, like I described to you that laser focus, but sometimes if it kind of comes in waves, as especially with extended release. As the first dose kind of wears off, there's kind of a little bit of a gap, and it would pull me in a different direction, and then as that dose came back in, when the second dose of the extended release would hit, it would pull me back in to my focus. So, I can't so much relate to the dating aspect, but just general life, it would take me from highly interested in one thing that I was doing, then I would fall out of that, and then it might not snap me into the same thing, but I'd fall into something else.
So you're focused on your distractions.
Correct.
So it's like you're still distracted. It's
Correct.
Just now.
So it was kind of counterintuitive.
You're not like lazy about it.
Right. I was all into my distraction, and then I'd be pulled out, not know where, not necessarily where I was, but not know where to go with what I was doing.
When it wore off.
When it wore off, and then when the second dose would activate and kick in, I would get pulled into whatever I was doing in that moment, and it really messed with my life.
Yeah, it's like it's ping ponging with your consciousness in that way and stuff like that. But were you doing better in school? That's a question. That's what they want, right?
I want to answer that yes.
Yeah.
But no, because prior to getting to Salisbury, I had gone to 2 different universities prior to that, and a lot of my credits didn't transfer. So I'm trying to focus. I'm trying to use this Adderall to help me get through the studies, not for me. And what I found was if I'm interested in something, I'm all in, 100%, 110%.
Same.
Salisbury, by the time I got there, I was taking English and history and math for the 15th time, 3rd time in college. I had absolutely no interest in it. So the Adderall was almost counterintuitive because I was focusing on things that I shouldn't be focusing on, and I had no desire to do any of those studies. Once I had that meeting with my psychiatrist, he refilled my prescription. We had the conversation about how weed was helping me. The next school year, I didn't take a dose of Adderall at all.
How'd you do?
I did much better, but it was also because I got into the core curriculum of what I was interested in.
So you're excited about it again.
I was excited about it and invested.
And with your withdrawal from Adderall, like, did you experience much withdrawals, or were you so kind of like so shocked to have had a heart attack, a cardiac arrest, that you were like, did that scare you away and you didn't really have a temptation? Like,
it scared me.
What was the fallout of that?
It scared me to death.
Did you feel like you were dying?
I did feel like I was dying. Well, yes and no. I felt like I was dying, but I also felt like, what the hell's going on? Mm-hmm. Like, nothing felt right. Did not feel myself. I'd never felt anything like that before. It's terrifying.
Yeah, it's so great you're with a literal lifeguard.
Yes.
Because
thank God. Thank God. But I didn't necessarily experience too much withdrawal because once I stopped the Adderall, my smoking intensified tenfold. It became...
So you cushioned the blow of amphetamine withdrawal with the copious weed.
Not purposely.
Yeah, but maybe.
But it was, getting yourself off one thing, and there's a void there.
Yeah.
You've had that for 8-9 years now. Mm-hmm. And then you go cold turkey. You have to fill that void with something.
Yeah.
And after the conversation with my psychiatrist and the personal experience and I'll call it research that I went through with the mixing of marijuana and Adderall.
Research is like
research,
lab research on your own body.
essentially, essentially,
just testing it out. Yeah.
It went. I kind of realized that hey, marijuana is helping me. I enjoy it.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm myself when I'm high versus on Adderall and high. There was even a difference there.
Oh yeah.
So I essentially used marijuana as a self-medication and stopped cold turkey with the Adderall, and then from there on out I was smoking daily, heavily.
For how long are you still?
I am no longer smoking right now, but the last time I took Adderall was 2012, and I can say I've smoked almost daily or daily since then, up until middle of last year. And now it's pretty much strictly recreational. I found that I don't need marijuana to fill that void anymore. I'll chalk it up to growing up and life getting in the way and too busy to be high all day.
Yeah. It's a good thing.
It is a good thing.
Yeah.
But I cannot say that it did not help me tremendously.
So you think, like with the ADD thing, do you think you had something like a knot or a blockage or something in your brain that worked differently and these substances straightened it out over time? Like, do you think that or do you think that it was all kind of, because I wonder this myself, that did I have something wrong, took the Adderall for years, adjusted and did, or had I not taken anything, would I have figured that out anyways?
It's a good question. I think there's no doubt in my mind I had a need for Adderall.
When you were 15? Melon.
When I was younger, elementary school age and up through maybe my first couple years of college. Because it really was, I had to train my brain to kind of noise cancel out exterior sounds. Like that saw, that would throw me off all day, elementary school through. Like, if you were the teacher sitting in front of me, I would be listening to that.
Same. No, I used to...
Like Charlie Brown, wah, 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 like that's exactly...
You talking about this, I just remembered that I used to sometimes, in my house, if I wanted to read a book in my bed, I'd wait between the gaps in the air conditioned circuit. You know how the air conditioners pause?
I have done that too.
So I'd say, and they'd be like, oh, I can read. So...
I have done that too. And I also... I know, and the amount of concerts and stuff I've been to over the years, I know my hearing has diminished.
So you think that's helpful?
The concerts helped in that regard. Yeah, absolutely.
You had too good hearing. You had to...
Yeah, so when I was young, I recall hearing something shatter in the basement. And this was the middle of the night. I'm up on the second floor. And I ran into my parents' room and I said, Mom, I heard something. And she said, don't worry about it, honey, go back to bed. The next morning, she goes down to do the laundry, and there's a fluorescent bulb shattered on the basement floor. So after that event, she took me to get my hearing tested, and it was determined I had, naturally significantly good hearing, above average. So I think that had a lot to do with
So you had an auditory sensitivity.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's what led to the ESOL. It wasn't so much the distractibility side as far as a learning disability is concerned, but it was just I had such good hearing that I was tuning into the wrong things. And I don't think Adderall would really make a difference with that.
But it did,
it did to an extent.
Or it just let you override it.
I think it let me override it because it would hone my attention in so much that it would hone everything else out.
Mm-hmm.
And as you grow older, there's more distractions. There's your friends. There's more difficult studies through middle school, high school. There's girls.
Yeah.
All those different distractions, there's sports, there's everything out there that you as a kid start diving into. I think having all of that, in addition to my good hearing, in addition to what the teachers were saying with my distractibility, ultimately led my mom to that initial psychiatrist appointment, amongst me getting in trouble acting up as a adolescent teenager, you know. But circling back to your initial question, I think had I not taken Adderall at all and discovered weed earlier, I think I would have gotten in a lot more trouble. So I think it was helpful.
You needed something?
I needed something.
Yeah.
To keep me from running rampant.
I mean, wearing headphones in school would have helped or something.
Maybe.
You know, because I just wonder.
Maybe.
Like how, and I mean, I think it's fair to say that the education system is trash to start with. So what we're being asked to do is kind of crazy in the first place.
Absolutely.
For someone who's an electrician.
Absolutely.
And someone who does the trades like this, sitting at a desk and staring at papers and listening to someone talk.
That's where it's flawed.
Yeah, no adult would do that.
There's so much diversity out there amongst people.
Mm-hmm.
You have people like my brother. He's an MIT aerospace engineer. Okay, brilliant. But when it comes to hands-on technical things, he's not the greatest.
Yeah. Can
he engineer you something? Oh, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, there's kind of a fine line in a diverse mix of people. Some are good with their hands. Some are good with their brain. Some are good, you know, creativity-wise, artistry like you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I definitely needed something. I don't know that it's Adderall.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking about a lot. And like, what else can you do with that kid? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Right. I mean,
that isn't a high-powered stimulant, because the jury's out on long-term effects, and we'll discover as we age.
Yep. I mean, even to this day, because of Adderall, I'm on high blood pressure medicine.
Oh, really?
On high blood pressher medicine.
It left you with that? So you had regular blood pressure prior to Adderall, and after
I was a swimmer. I was U.S. swimming. I had Olympic trial cuts. I was very good. After my heart attack, prior to the heart attack, I had no issues.
Mm-hmm.
No health issues at all. No high blood pressure, no concerns, no nothing. Biggest concern, if you ask my mom, was my weed smoking. Okay. After that, I was diagnosed with high blood pressure, and I've been medicated since.
Mm.
This year, actually this past month, I've undergone a stress test. I've changed I'm now seeing a cardiologist regularly. Before, the blood pressure medicine was administered through my primary care. I've done an echocardiogram to check that my heart hasn't increased in size due from the effects of Adderall that caused the heart attack and the effects of the blood pressure medicine that I've now been on for 10 years. Thank God it all came back normal.
Yeah.
But had I not taken Adderall, I wouldn't be in that position.
Yeah. No, it pushed a blood clot in me.
Weed would not have done that.
No, weed doesn't have the same physiological.
Correct.
It's all psychological.
Correct. Now, would it have led to more issues? Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
But I'm thankful that I kind of had that, like I said, that kind of experiment with myself, that research within myself with Adderall and weed at the same time,
mm-hmm.
because it kind of taught me how to adjust and regulate myself on substances.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that too. I mean, I think that once people were offering me other things, the idea of taking something was like, sure.
Yeah, why not?
I'm not afraid of giving my mind and body over to something for an evening or whatever it was. It made me really, for better or for worse. I mean, in the end, for better, I think I've healed through some of those things. But
absolutely,
but that's I guess the conflict, because I have sometimes resent Adderall completely because I just do.
Yep.
You know, I'm just like, you dirty scoundrel of a medication. You made me a speedhead.
Yep.
And now you've forever changed my personal expectation of productivity.
Absolutely.
So now I'm always in the shadow of that productivity in some way. But at the same time, I wonder, is there this kind of weird thing where did it wire my brain to be the way it is? Is that good or bad? You know, did it teach me grit or something? You know, like...
Sure. Have you ever wondered if it's sparked your creativity side? Or has that always been there for you?
I've always been pretty on the creative side.
Okay.
But on Adderall, I would chase my tail into creative projects for long periods of time.
Yep.
To make things that were practically meaningless, just because the experience was so pleasurable.
Pleasurable, and it kept you busy.
Exactly.
Kept your mind busy.
And I think the hardest thing to have done would be nothing.
Yeah.
Like, you have to do something. If there's nothing to do, pull out the stove and clean under it, whatever. I would clean. I don't know if you cleaned.
Oh, yeah.
I loved cleaning on Adderall.
Yep.
Yeah.
I would clean the house like OCD.
Yeah. I just liked to see it.
I would start and I couldn't stop.
But it was like, sometimes I felt like I was watching a show, like my hands were a show. And like, I'd look at the kitchen and be like, I bet I can transform that into what a kitchen is like supposed to look like.
Yep.
Textbook style.
Yep.
Nothing left unturned. Perfect.
What I found in those first couple of years of taking Adderall, before, you know, it's not that I wasn't open to change or unaccepting of change. I just was content with how things were. When I started taking Adderall, what I noticed is I would rearrange my room monthly. And I would walk in one day, get home from school, and be like, I don't like the way this is. Mm-hmm. And I would spend hours rearranging different things, you know, move my bed to this corner, then to this corner,
designing
move the dresser over here.
Yeah, designing some system. And
then, exactly.
Yeah.
And then when all was said and done, I'd stand in the doorway and look back and just be like, wow, I like that. And Adderall was the only thing that did that. Yeah. Like, it in a way, it sparked acceptance of change. By way of hyper-focusing on that one thing. Yeah. And not being able to let it go.
Yeah, but not being afraid to get started.
Correct.
Or timid about it at all.
Correct.
Very much.
So for me, I was when I was young, I always had, you know, most kids do, a huge imagination. Mm-hmm. But it never really bled outside of headspace. What I noticed specifically with the combination of marijuana and Adderall, that really sparked my creativity side.
Were you drawing?
No, but it was, you know, like I mentioned, the rearranging of things, or the sparking of accepting change, going outside of my comfort zone. Yeah. Because I was so kind of hyper-focused on something, I didn't give a shit about anything else that was going on around me. I could care less.
And that's one of the things that I've heard it done, that some people in all the research I've done, that they say the cognitive thing, it doesn't actually like increase your IQ or anything like that, but what it actually does is the surge of dopamine from the amphetamine gives you so much confidence that the confidence alone allows you to perform better because you don't get in your own way. Right. And I mean, that's true.
There was never, that's a very good point, because if I recall, there was never a point where when I was on Adderall and I was in the middle of doing something that I questioned it. Yeah. Ever. No. Ever. You know, this is what I'm doing and I'm not stopping till it's done. And then once I started with my weed smoking, that became more intense. It kind of opened my eyes to, well, this is what Adderall does for me. This is what weed does for me. How can I find that middle ground and be successful with both of them? And that was really hard to find because they're very two different substances. Yeah. But what I found was, and I came to the ultimate realization that I don't need Adderall. And my creativity was still there with weed. My drive was still there with weed. My confidence was still there with weed. Why do I need Adderall?
Yeah.
And obviously the culmination or the pivotal moment was that heart attack.
Yeah, your body's saying, like, we can't take this.
You're like, dude, what are you doing to me?
Yeah, you're microdosing heart attacks.
Yeah.
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 That's crazy.
Especially, I don't agree, looking back, I don't agree that you should start a 15-year-old on 100 milligrams of Adderall.
No.
That is a stupid dose.
That's crazy. I started when I was 7, which is crazy. But when I was 7, it was 15 milligrams.
Yeah. Was it Ritalin or Adderall?
It was dexedrine.
Okay.
So it was an amphetamine, but Adderall hadn't been patented yet. So
Sure.
it was
Sure.
Adderall's grandfather or dad.
Yeah.
But then when I was 15, I started on Adderall, but I was taking 20 milligram time release with 5 or 10 milligram salt in the afternoon.
Okay.
And that was enough. I felt I was on fire.
I had taken some of those because, when I was going through high school and college, that was the big Adderall push.
Yeah.
The big ADHD, ADD push, like drugs, bring them on.
Yeah. We were part of the same movement.
Yep.
Yeah.
And, I had my prescribed dose, and I was curious, like, what would a lesser dose do for me? So, because of the amount of drugs that were pushed into the community and the ADD and ADHD movement, I had access to various dosage through friends of friends, and I tried lower dosages, and it was great. Like, it didn't give me that weird head feeling. It didn't give me the jitters. It was functional. So I highly disagree with how high I was prescribed.
That's crazy. I know one other person who had that, and I don't understand.
And I don't know if it came down to money.
Yeah, if he was getting free lunches or something from them, or
I have no idea.
I know.
I don't want to think that way, but it makes me think that way.
Yeah, I try not to, but I always do.
Because
in the research, that's why it's there. But
right,
it's a product.
What is the point of putting a child on that amount of drugs?
Yeah, or any amount.
Or exactly,
yeah,
any amount for that matter.
They say your frontal lobe doesn't develop till you're 25, and that ADD is a deficit of executive function, which is in the frontal lobe.
Yep.
So why don't you let that thing cook?
Right. Let it develop before you
see what happens.
Before you burn it.
Yeah, burn it out, or just confuse it, or make it reliant upon an external source to maintain its own homeostasis.
Exactly.
All that.
Exactly.
Because then I'm like, do I have ADD, or do I just have like lifelong amphetamine withdrawal symptoms? Like, I don't know what I'm really dealing with at this point.
Generally, interested in a million things, and I can't focus on one.
Yeah, this is just, I have to figure out how to channel this, which working with my hands was a huge solution. Because once I started doing that, it didn't matter. I could work all day.
It almost works the same way. It hones you in.
Yeah.
Number 1, you're interested. Number 2, it involves motor function. Number 3, you love what you're doing.
Yeah, I like figuring it out and playing.
It keeps your mind occupied. I think a lot of my trouble was there was so much stimulus out there, I didn't know what to focus on or what the right thing to focus on was.
Because it's all interesting.
Right, except for school.
Yeah.
That did not interest me. So everything around me interests me, and I would hone into that.
Same. I was interested in like that kid, the teacher's emotional state. Like the actual room was always so interested to me.
The kid with the cool backpack.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I was always just staring at whatever posters the teacher had, whatever stupid poster.
Yep.
I would just burn it into my mind.
Yeah.
Just stare at the posters.
And I had a lot of trouble growing up reading.
Mm-hmm.
Because I would sit down, get a book in front of me. And before I knew it, I would realize I had read like 10 pages, but I had been thinking about something else the entire time.
Yeah, your eyes roll over the words while you think.
I had no idea what I read.
Yeah.
Like I would, kind of snap out of it or wake up, if you will, and I'd be like.
But it's a
I don't remember any of this.
It's a learned skill.
It is.
You can do it now, right?
I can do it now.
Yeah. So.
And I love it.
Yeah. So that's how I'm wondering, like. Here we are, a couple guys who are diagnosed ADD as kids who don't take medication, who are doing fine. But,
Have you looked into any research with adult prescribed Adderall?
Yeah. I mean, I know a bunch of people who take it.
What are their thoughts?
I don't know. I actually talked to one guy, and like you had said, like you were saying, for you on 100 doses, that guy on 20, you're like, that sounds functional. And then me, I was like, well, that's what I was on. And that wasn't functional. It was still habit forming. It was still
Sure, of course.
powerful. I talked to this guy who said he takes 2.5 milligrams.
Okay.
I'm like, that sounds functional, but nonetheless, what happens is he takes it to work, and he cannot work without it, even though it's just 2.5, which really is a microdose. Yeah, so it might not be as damaging, and it might not turn him as much into like an empty shell driven by speed as you and I were at a point, but it still is dependence, and I just wonder, like, I know a lot of people who got started with their jobs on Adderall, and now they cannot
function without it.
Yeah, if they lost their prescription, they'd lose their job. You know, and
that makes me grateful I found a way out.
Me too.
You know, but I was curious about the difference between, you know, let's say adolescent prescribed Adderall use versus adult once your brain has been developed, and how that affects.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. I mean, I stopped taking it when I was 23.
Okay.
So I wasn't exactly there.
I was 22.
Yeah, so I was still, I guess, developing, but it kind of kept me in a place where I wasn't growing up. I felt like, actually, because it was almost like it was this behavior that was associated with my childhood. So that while I was continuing that behavior, it was almost like I couldn't go to the next part of life until I put that down, kind of like.
Yep. I had a similar experience. It's almost as if you don't know where to go with your life.
Yeah.
Because you've been in such a routine that, you know, now that's gone. What do I do now?
Yeah, it's scary.
It's terrifying.
Yeah. And I mean, I didn't quit willingly. Like, I didn't have an experience like that. I was doing fine. I just lost my prescription. I had a similar situation. I had a doctor up here. I was in Florida who was writing prescriptions. And then eventually he said, like, same deal. He's like, you should probably come in. We should probably have a chat. You know, I've been sending you these, and it's kind of weird. And I couldn't get home, and I just white-knuckled it. And
I'm sure that was rough.
It was really bad. Did you have
major withdrawals?
I had really bad withdrawals.
What did you experience?
I experienced serious depression. Yeah. Just like, and I called it like that. Adderall had something called an advocate, which was like a pharma rep voice in my brain that was always telling me I needed it. You know, because I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't get anything done. And I was like just such a lazy person. And it's like this voice was just like, oh, if you had Adderall, you wouldn't be in this situation. This is all because maybe you do have a problem. Accept it. You are flawed. You need this medication. You are not of this world. You need a chemical adjustment. You're so destroyed. And it was, you know, really dark areas. And I would have to remind myself, like, well, this is just the withdrawal. Yeah. This isn't me.
You're stronger than this.
This is a withdrawal. And I just forced myself to run.
Sure.
And that was awesome.
Sure. It gave you the endorphins, almost the same effect.
Yeah, I mean, and it's interesting. It's that I felt calm afterwards and just capable and just doing hard things. And I realized that in my whole life, I never really worked hard. I would say I worked compulsively. Yeah. I worked a lot, but it wasn't hard. Hard work is doing it when you don't feel like it. Hard work is doing the job that makes extended release in terms of your results. You know, that delayed gratification, satisfaction over pleasure.
Yes.
And that was the hardest thing. And I thought of like parenting myself, because I was like, okay, if I'm starting back at the 7.5-year-old kid who's smart and bright, but just a little needs some discipline. Sure. And I joined a Kung Fu dojo. Okay. And I said I would take that kid to Kung Fu.
And that got you the discipline.
I joined, martial arts.
Did you enjoy it?
I loved it. But it taught, this is how, you start with this, there's this, you don't deviate from this. So just really, and I think what was essential is I was consciously doing that. I was like, I'm going to Kung Fu for my ADD because I can't do anything. Right. And if it's like, there's a process to this, there's a warm up, there's a this, there's a that, there's one way to punch. There's not a million ways to do it here. So just giving me that discipline and that discretion to like choose things almost, to not do everything, but to be more.
And it gave you purpose, I imagine.
Yeah, and good posture.
Sure, absolutely.
There's a physical side to all of it too.
Of course.
And I think exercise for me is crucial. And as an adult, I feel like there's all these things that's like manage your ADD. If you go online and you like see ADD stuff, it's all like, here's what you can do for ADD, and I'm like, my thought is that's all stress related.
Yeah.
So really, it's like you manage your stress. You go to like the root.
Yep.
The ADD for me is a symptom of stress.
Sure.
You know, and,
sure.
and managing that.
Sure. I mean, like I told you, I was a competitive swimmer, and that kept me occupied till I tore my shoulder in college, and then I stopped. And there was a period of, I don't know, 8-9 years where I wasn't exercising. I went from 220 pounds to 280 pounds. And I just got back, shortly before I met you at Gold's, back into the gym, and I was going, 1 or 2 days a week. And I was like, man, I really like this. It was helping me diminish the stress. It helped me in a way, not that I needed to or wanted to, but it helped me slow my weed consumption. And what it's turned into, I'm now there 5 days a week, 2 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
Yeah.
My stress level's down. I'm not smoking as much. I'm not looking back. I'm motivated. And I think you struck the key critical point there. I think a lot of ADD is stress driven. Now, when you were on it when you were 7, I imagine you were probably weren't very stressed.
When I was on the medication?
Prior to it.
No.
I wouldn't consider a 7-year-old a stressful life.
Yeah.
It can be, depending on your environment.
Yeah.
But high school, there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
It's definitely a lot more stress induced environment.
Yeah, and they don't teach you how to manage it.
No, they do not.
No.
No, they do not. It's I look at the public education system as almost a glorified babysitter.
Yeah.
Because if you look at the homeschool side of things, the curriculum calls for 2.5 hours a day.
Yeah.
Or we were in public school for 8 hours a day?
Yeah, it's
What's the point other than allow your parents to work, keep the kids occupied, and
indoctrinate them to serve the system.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
To learn how to be workers, and I think that's always kind of the thing with the ADD kid is that they want to do something weird or odd, and in order for you to have, or a child to have basically a desk job, because that's what being a student in a public school is.
Yep.
They need to do this.
Yeah, it's training for that.
Yeah.
Training for the workforce of America.
Yeah, and following instructions. And
complacency.
Yep, and obedience. And
yeah, it's sad.
It is.
It's really sad looking back on it. And a lot of my friends, of whom experienced Adderall or were prescribed it for, however long a duration, they're starting to pull their kids out of school.
Mm-hmm. And homeschooling them?
Homeschooling.
Or? Yeah. My wife was homeschooled, and she's well adjusted.
There's so much more enrichment. Yeah. You can find enough socialization for the child.
Self-motivation.
Yep.
If it's done right.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
Of course, it has to be done right.
Yeah, there are people who homeschool and totally just do
whatever they want.
Yeah, or nothing, or teach their kids whatever.
Sure.
Dinosaurs aren't real. Which I don't know if they are.
Sure. Whatever they've got going on in their head is what they're teaching.
Yeah. It can go both ways.
Of course.
But you give the parents more power.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's how the parent approaches it with the child. I think it's a lot more beneficial on the broad spectrum than, like, let's say a small sample group of those that aren't doing what they should, or teaching the things that are beneficial for the child. Yeah.
And sometimes I wonder the actual attention deficit is attention from teachers and caretakers. That's where the deficit is. It's like it's not that the kid can't pay attention. It's that he needs more attention. He or she needs more attention giving to them because they have more specific needs, more questions. I mean, I was pretty my main problem was questions.
Yep.
Like I have the document.
Yep.
Off topic. I wanted to know this. I wanted to know that.
Curiosity.
Yeah, and that needed more attention.
Yep.
From someone else, and they couldn't give it to me. So,
and with being a student in a class of 20-25 kids per one teacher, there's only so much attention to go around.
Yeah. So you can either change the environment or change the internal chemistry of the subjects.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, I mean, my overall experience, it's kind of twofold. Looking back, I'm not thrilled that any of that happened, obviously.
Yeah.
It led to a heart attack. But I'm also, in a way, grateful that it did, because it taught me how to self-regulate. I had to teach myself what worked for me to fill that void, whether it be attention, whether it be the combination of marijuana and Adderall sparking the creative side of my mind, or just allowing me to be confident and branch out more. So definitely twofold. I don't like that I was on it, but I like that I was on it.
Yeah, and that's the conflict that stinks, is that I loved it a little bit, and I had this weird relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's a whole thing.
Would I go back? No.
Yeah. Would you put your kid on it?
No.
Yeah.
No. I would try and I'm not going to say that hey, marijuana was my outlet.
Yeah.
Let's try that for my child.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I now know, and I feel like I'm now set up to help find that outlet, whatever it may be.
For your kid in that situation.
Before turning to drugs. Yes.
Yeah. That's the thing too. Is we don't try anything.
Right.
We don't make it. At least in my case, I think they've gotten better now. But in my case, there were no adjustments made prior. That was first mode of attack.
Yeah.
Was introducing amphetamines.
It was 0 to 100 milligrams for me.
That's insane.
It's nuts.
Were you a better swimmer? Were you better at everything?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you sleep?
Not much.
Yeah.
Not much. I had a hell of a time falling asleep.
Yeah, I started taking NyQuil in high school.
If I started, and that's another one of the reasons why I started smoking, because it would let me come off of it.
Yeah.
And I would fall asleep.
Yeah, people do that a lot.
They do. I mean, there's specific weed strains out there for that.
Wow, I didn't know that.
I mean, it's not specifically defined as, if you're taking Adderall and you can't sleep, smoke this.
Yeah, I guess indica is where you're getting at. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And especially with the medical realm and how that's developed, there's a lot more science behind it and specific strains you can take to, whether you have insomnia or, whatever it may be. Mm-hmm. There's something for it. Yeah. But that's the drug world we live in now.
Yeah, it's every personality has a prescription.
Yeah.
Because it's like, what is this like normal psychiatric model that we're all being pushed towards with different oh, you're too sad, take this. Oh, you freak out, take this. It's like, what is this perfect thing? It's funny.
Right. And I think it's, if you look at the broad side of it, I think it's an America problem. I think there's definitely a presence of Adderall and drugs everywhere in the world. Let's say Europe, for example. But I'm curious to see if they have the vast issues with drugs that we do here.
No, not from what I've seen.
I would say no.
They don't have direct consumer advertising, so there's no asking your doctor for anything.
Right.
You come to doctor with symptoms, and then they tell you. There's no ask your doctor if this is right for you anywhere but the United States and New Zealand, actually, for some reason.
There you go.
And also, like, they're so much stricter with the medications in other countries. One thing I think was neat is, like, because I've become like an Adderall historian in some ways, during the Olympics in 2020, I think, Simone Biles.
Yes.
She was doing the gymnastics, and Simone Biles, like, they leaked a file on her that she had taken Adderall, and then she said with pride, like, yeah, I have ADD, I'm not ashamed of my medication. And I'm like, I could probably do those backflips too if I was on Adderall, And then I knew when she went to Japan, that Japan recognizes Adderall as a useless substance. Japan refuses, no matter if you have a prescription or anything, they do not allow that substance to go on the soil in Japan. And when she went to the Olympics in Japan, I remember I was thinking, I was like,
how's this going to go?
Yeah, how's it going to go? And she got the whizzies or whatever, and she backed out.
Yep.
And my thought was that she came there and she said, no, I'm trained. I can handle this. I can do this. And then she
You know,
She bowed out. She said, "You know what? I can't do that."
I never thought about it. I bet that was withdrawal.
Yeah. Can you imagine withdrawing an Adderall and having to get a gold medal?
With all that stress?
Yeah. It's insane.
It's what everybody's been talking about for years.
Yeah. And
then you go in without the thing that's kept you steady?
That keeps it going, that giving you the edge to win. And Japan just says, like, nope.
That's a good point, man. Yeah, it's a really hard thing when you think back on it. Like I've been describing, there's a good side to it. There's a really bad side to it.
Yeah.
Is it necessary? Is it not?
No, it's not necessary.
I don't think so either.
But I have to say, like, you know, like, where does it fit? Because it's been pulled out of Pandora's box of chemistry. You know, we've pulled it out. It's here. And my thought is, at least, like, in case of work, you know, like, if you got a 20-hour day ahead of you in work, you say, all right, I just go to 7-Eleven and get it, or the pharmacy, or, you know, where does it fit? Because daily use isn't it.
Right.
But you can't regulate occasional use with such a high-level substance.
No, because it's not sustainable.
Yeah.
Look at me, for example.
What?
Yeah, it led to a heart attack.
Yeah. And people don't talk about that at all. It's really hard to find stories where it does.
Yeah.
And it's rarely talked about. I think, like, opiates and benzos, they kind of get the attention when it comes to dangerous overprescribed drugs.
Yep.
Where no one writes about Adderall because all the journalists are taking it and they don't want anyone.
It gets the asterisks.
Yeah.
You know, it's not incorporated into that volume of research.
It's not. It's really hard to find research on Adderall that's a little more obscure. You know, like I've found an article about Parkinson's. Mm-hmm. And because Parkinson's is when your dopamine circuits are so worn out that you can't produce dopamine anymore.
Right.
So how does Adderall work? That sounds like it could go there. And the only study I found, the conclusion was more research needs to be done on this topic.
And that makes sense because it hasn't been around too long.
Exactly. And people, you know, how's our nervous system and stuff like that.
We may be those test subjects down the road.
I know. Hopefully not.
Yeah,
you and I stopped and we
found a way out.
Yeah, but taking care of our health. But, you know, I think that in the dialogue, people are so seduced by feeling good that they can't imagine it, and they keep making excuses. At least I did, because I remember I did a boatload of research on Adderall.
Okay.
So I was on Adderall. I wrote like a 20-page paper, and I was like, "Holy shit, this is bad." And I was like, "But I can't stop," you know. I was like,
"But I did it."
Yeah, I knew it was. So at some point, I knew it was wrong, and I knew it was damaging. But it's almost like I had to.
Did you ever try and stop after that? After doing that research, and it is that what led you to those depressive withdrawals?
No,
or was that
I did that research like 2 years later is when I stopped after that research.
Okay.
I knew.
So you were caught in that kind of hamster wheel of I still need this.
Yeah, or just it's worth it, or
this is just how it is.
Yeah, it's like I knew that I was doing something dangerous.
Sure.
And I just kept going.
But you couldn't stop.
No, I couldn't. And I kept. It's like the Adderall whispered in my ear excuses as why it was helpful, and that you just take this Adderall, finish this project, make $1 million and retire. You know, just
sure.
Like it gave me delusions of grandeur, and like not like too crazy, but I thought I was pretty cool.
Sure.
I thought I was like something special, and I thought that I had an edge that other people has. Like, when they go to sleep, I stay up. I'm built different.
Or
yeah.
You know, I have people coming to me for what I have because they feel they need it.
Oh, I never told anyone I was on it. That was the problem too. Because I was embarrassed.
So you were embarrassed, but that was your edge.
Yeah. So I wanted to. So some people were like, "Wow, like you're crazy," you know, or what? And I'm like, "Yeah, it's just
How do you do it?"
Yeah, and I'm like, I'm just different. I'm built different, you know, or something like that. I'd give these excuses like, "How did you stay up 8 hours?" It's like I was just inspired, and I was lying,
Yeah.
and that
That didn't help either.
no, and that's it quietly, slowly just shepherded me to being a standard drug addict. And it wasn't until I stopped, because your whole support system, doctors, parents, teachers, my parents didn't even know at this time, this was just solo, but like they're happy with the results.
Sure.
So
there's not a problem.
So you don't feel like the typical drug addict. You're like, oh, there he goes. But once I started withdrawing and I was observant of my behaviors, I was like, I'm acting like a drug addict.
Mm-hmm.
It happened. Like, wow. Because
this is what I've become.
I was like texting people like, please, I know this is weird. I know you barely know me, but I heard you take this. Can you please just sell me a couple? And I just...
Yeah, it's almost a gateway, and I described that to you that day in the sauna. It was a gateway for me to marijuana
mm-hmm.
and other recreational drugs.
Yeah.
Because I knew how I felt on this, and like I said, with that spark of creativity, it led to experimentation.
Yeah. Which,
in a way, I enjoyed. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
But thinking back on it, I was like, man, I really went down the rabbit hole, and I would not have gotten there if it weren't for Adderall, because that's what started it.
Yeah.
Especially at such an early age.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just taking drugs, doing the DARE program on drugs.
Yeah, exactly.
And I mean, eventually, it all equals out and balances out.
Oh, sure.
But I mean, what do you do anything now specifically for your ADD, or you're just exercising, taking care of yourself?
I don't feel like I'm not going to say I don't feel like I have ADD anymore, because it's not something that's going to go away, but I feel like I've grown to adapt to my existence and my surroundings, that I can tune out what I want to tune out and tune into what I'd want to tune into.
Yeah.
I now have that ability. I've almost in a way trained myself to be able to hop in and hop out.
How do we
as necessary?
How do you get kids on that? How do you teach that?
I don't know that you can.
Yeah.
I don't know that you can. I think that's got to be a per individual basis and individually researched by no one but that one person.
So people need to just kind of have some kind of personal growth.
Yeah, I don't want to say
of their own.
You got to figure it out, but you got to figure it out.
Yeah, I mean that's Yeah, I mean that's what people ask me all the time. I say I did this, but what was key was I did 50 other things that didn't work.
Yep.
And
trial and error.
Yeah, just keep messing around until something, and it's slow and stuff like that. But I wonder if I could have. It's so easy to be here now, and if I could go back to the 15-year-old and be like, oh man, you just gotta listen.
Listen, this is what you do.
And literally, like, there were like 40 adults who came to me with that, like, I see you doing this, man. And I'm like, yeah, fuck off, bro. But like, so it's really hard to get across to a 15-year-old. But.
Yeah, but it's almost life in a nutshell. You know what I mean? Like, the only way to figure out what works for you is to try a whole slew of different shit.
Mm-hmm.
And if something works, stick with that till it doesn't. And then you got to find the next thing that works, stick with that till it doesn't. And then find the next thing, stick with that until it doesn't.
And eventually that process becomes a skill.
Correct.
Of regulating. I think that's really what it's that word, regulate.
First it was marijuana for me.
Mm-hmm.
Then it was finding things that interested me highly.
Like what?
Let's start with video games.
Mm-hmm.
Like, video games would take my full attention. Reading at a point would take my full attention. Working with my hands took my full attention. Finding things that provided me gratitude. Working with my hands, diving into a difficult project, wiring up a motor, figuring it out, troubleshooting. It's not working now, diving into the problem, figuring it out, you flip the switch and it works.
Yeah, it's satisfying.
Super satisfying.
Mm-hmm.
Things like that is kind of was my progression. And now I have the gym outlet. And that is developed from, like I told you, 1 or 2 days a week. Now I'm in there 10 hours a week, 5 days.
Yeah.
Do I see it developing more than that? No.
Yeah.
Because my body can't sustain that.
No.
But is it working? Hell yeah, it's working. I feel better. I'm losing weight. And I'm not falling back into a depressive state or not knowing what I want to do with my life.
Yeah.
I've learned how to cope with my ADD and not let it be an issue. Or on the flip side of that, learn how to live with the ADD and how it makes me function, and just kind of let that drive the ship. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If this is how I am, I need to embrace that and figure out how I can make it functional. And a lot of that is, like we've been saying, trial and error. You got to try things or you don't know.
Yeah.
Is it going to work? Is it not? Never know unless you try. But the only way to learn is by failure.
Oh, yeah.
We're familiar with that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's it. I keep failing.
Yeah.
It's great.
You'll never learn unless you fail.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's a life lesson that's been around since the beginning of time.
Yeah. Yeah, and one of the things interesting, too, what you're saying is Hippocrates, you know that guy?
Mm-hmm.
Father of medicine?
Mm-hmm.
He had thoughts on ADD, too. He called it fire over water, because they had this humor system where everyone's constitution was fire, water, earth, and air.
Sure.
And he said ADD is a constitution too much fire, and his prescription was to eat fish, to drink extra water, and exercise vigorously. And fish is omegas and stuff like that too.
And how long ago was that?
Like 400 years before Christ or something like that.
Did we just find the answer?
I think so. I mean, I would like to eat more fish, but
through trial and error, we found the answer.
Vigorous exercise is huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And without Adderall and exercise, I went into a pretty highly depressive state for those 10 years. I had no motivation.
Mm-hmm.
I would go to work, I'd come home, I'd sit on the couch, I'd stuff my face with pizza and watch TV till I felt like going to bed. And I was in that cycle over and over and over again, and that's how I gained 60 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't, and it took me 10 years through constant failure to find the next outlet that would help me self-regulate. And really, that was a new job in the gym.
It's that simple.
A new trigger, or a new what's the word I'm looking for?
Stimulus.
A new stimulus, and I'll call the gym a new outlet.
Mm-hmm.
Something to gain my attention and something to offload the stress.
Yeah, that works.
It did. I wonder how long it's going to work for.
It could work forever. I mean,
it could. Or I may need, in a handful of years, may need to adjust course and find something else.
Well, I think too. Like, I wonder as a kid, if I was just giving caffeine, it's like, okay, this kid does better at school. Stimulants, can you try caffeine?
Yeah.
And that's the thing too. I have to come around to is like supplements and sometimes trying this or that. And I've tried so many things, but I work so hard to try to like nothing.
And that's the thing. Without the supplements, that is a chemical change within you that your body will adjust to at a certain point, and it's no longer going to work.
Yeah.
So I've almost found that it's a hell of a lot more beneficial to find a physical outlet or stimulus.
Yeah.
Because that is sustainable.
Yeah, and diet.
Until mentally, you just get tired of it.
Yeah. And what you're eating, because that's where the food.
What you put in is huge.
Yeah. And I noticed that too watching my kid, because I look at everything and they say the preservatives, the food colorings, the this and that, they cause ADD, and they say we're out sometimes and he eats something, and then it's like, oh, there he goes,
bouncing off the wall.
Yeah. These, I think a lot of people, myself included, at times have thought like they're exempt from the physical ramifications of what they consume.
Mm-hmm.
You're not. Nobody is. Your body doesn't know the difference. And that's some people say, the amphetamine works different in a person with ADHD. And it's like, your mitochondria doesn't know. No.
Has no idea.
Everyone has the same reaction, ADD or not.
Yep. It's just how that reaction's perceived from somebody looking at you on the other side of the table.
Yeah.
But as far as the feelings you experienced what I experienced. A couple of my friends that I've had a conversation with since you and I sat down in that sauna, they experienced what I experienced and what you experienced. It's all the same.
Yeah. The similarities are uncanny.
And
I wasn't interrupting.
They're all very different people.
Mm-hmm. That's why I think it's like a visitor. It's like we've all had the same person or the same consciousness in our house, in our body, that we've all had this visitor that makes us clean our house, that makes us work a lot but get nothing done. Yeah. That, makes it, I don't know about you, but when I peed, it like kept dribbling. Yeah. What the fuck?
Yeah, I know. I know.
Because I talked about that with people at Adderall. They go, me too. And it's like all these quiet people are like peeing their pants a little bit for the sake of getting an edge in school. And it's like, what is this?
What's the point?
Yeah, they don't tell you that, but everyone experiences it. Damn.
Yeah. But, I don't know, man. I would not advocate for Adderall, period.
Yeah.
I don't think it's necessary. I don't think it's helpful long term. It may be helpful for certain very specific things, but I can't really put my finger on what those things would be.
Fighter jet missions?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. But the amphetamine on those G-forces may fucking kill you,
No, they do it.
I believe it.
Bomber. That's where it entered the military. They tried to do it for blood pressure. Because amphetamine raised your blood pressure. Uh-huh. They didn't have pressurized cabins. They gave it to bomber pilots who were at high altitude, and they were like, yeah.
Why does everything start with the military?
They got the money and
the resources.
Mm-hmm. It didn't start there. It started with asthma, trying to cure asthma, but then it led to the military.
It's been a wild ride, I'll tell you that much.
For Adderall or for you?
Both.
Yeah.
Both.
Well, I'm glad you survived the cardiac arrest.
Me too, man.
That's pretty
grateful. It was mild. It didn't require an operation, but it was the wake-up call I needed. There's a man upstairs, if you believe in one, telling you cut the shit.
Yeah.
You don't need it.
Yeah, you got to go to the edge to step back.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, yeah, man.
Okay. That was Joe from the sauna. Thank you so much for listening. If you've listened for this hour, I appreciate you donating your mental bandwidth to listen to our conversation, and I hope in one way or another it helps you. And if you want to learn about my personal experience and read a book I wrote, you can find that at rlkramer.us. Click book and you will find the link to check my book out.